Welcome back, guys, to episode 15 of the scrubbedin podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed last week, and because we've had such an amazing response, we thought this week we'll do something different. And instead of talking about a TV series, we're going to be talking about a film. And I know recently the Joker has come out, and we thought it was a good idea to talk about the Joker as a film. One, because it was, an amazing cinematography, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
But more so because Amz has recently done his 4-month placement as a junior doctor in mental health and psychiatric illnesses and diseases, and a lot of people have been asking us about some tips and advice. So we thought we'll talk about the Joker, the film, our thoughts on it, because me and Amz have very different viewpoints, and mention 6 things you can do, or 6 topics of discussion that will help you improve your mental health, and we'll try fit it in line with the Joker as a film. Like last time, before we begin, what did you think of the film The Joker?
I thought it was amazing. And in terms of character build-up, there was so much depth to understanding the Joker, right? All the other Batman movies, you look at the Joker and you think, why is he like this? Or
would you say, do you prefer the Batman movies, or do you think the Joker is better?
But the Joker's, for me, the Joker's not even a movie.
Okay.
It's not a movie. It's like a documentary almost.
Okay.
It's a documentary for me.
That's the first time. Okay,
it's a very entertaining documentary. What did you think?
So for me, we could talk about the mental health aspect of it, because I'm sure everyone knows the underlying theme of it was mental health. For me, I kind of grew up and saw the Joker as this like crazy villain who's gruesome, he does barbarous acts of crime, and he set hospitals on fire, and he's killing people left, right, and centre. And that's what I thought when I went to the cinema. I watched it quite early when it came out. And throughout the whole film, there was only 1 or 2 scenes. There was a scene where he basically kills the clown that gave him the gun in the flat. And he lets the younger guy, or the shorter guy, go. And I thought the film...
that was crazy.
So I thought the film was basically like, okay, the Joker is... This is the reason as to why the Joker is the Joker, and why he has... behaves in this way, and then the second half will be like him on rampage. But that's what I expect, and that's what when I go to watch a film or a movie, I would like, I want to see action, like intense thriller, but it was more about mental health and awareness. So in that regards, I wasn't a big fan of the film, but I appreciate what they did in terms of marketing and whatever is really good. And at the end of it, then you're like, do you know what? What I said, because I went and watched with my flatmates, was, now I understand why the Joker is the Joker.
Do you see you connected with him?
Yeah, that was the line. Because I remember I was like, bro, let's see, he's going to do some crazy stuff. And then at the end I was like, bro, now I get why the Joker is
and
the
you
Joker.
almost sympathize with him, right?
Yeah.
You connect with him, and you understand why he was that barbaric character he is in the other movies. You connect with that.
I wanted to know, like, I don't know why I keep asking people, do you think that lady, so that mum was like his real mum, or do you think them like Bruce Wayne's dad made it up? I think he made it up. I think that lady was his real mum.
No, I completely think that's his mum, and Bruce Wayne
did that thing
is the dad, and I think
you believe that, yeah?
Because in my humble opinion, money talks in this world, and I think
that's
money.
That's what I thought. I thought it's true, and he put that letter where it says that his mum adopted him, and that's
exactly
his real mum. And that. My mates were like, yeah, look, like that's why he's messed up. I said, bro, basically the guy was so rich he can make these things happen.
We know money talks.
So it goes to show, like, that one piece of paper, once he found out that his mom wasn't his real mom, then it kind of triggered it all in it. But then it goes to show this relationship thingy. I think we could talk about relationships, how important a healthy relationship is in kind of good mental health. Like, what would you kind of say?
That's a very important factor when it comes to having good mental health. First of all, mental health, what is it? It's essentially your emotional well-being. It's your sort of how you think, what we say, your cognitive well-being, right? So that's what we're relating to. And mental health itself, let's just clarify, it's itself is not a disease, right? It's not an illness. It's the same way as me and you go to the gym to make sure our body is intact, our physical health is intact. So mental health is like that. Now, you touched on the topic of relationship. I bet you right now, if you were in turmoil, if you were stressed out, right, you could go to people and tell people. And you probably have lots of different people for lots of different things.
No, I agree.
And that's quality bond. If you right now have 1 million friends, right, you probably don't, I could put my money on it, you probably don't have 1 million people that you would probably open yourself up to, but probably a handful, maybe 10 out of a million.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
right?
that, yeah.
And those 10, they are the ones that are important to your mental health, right? So relationship building, it's important to have good relationships whereby you can be yourself. You can genuinely just be yourself. You're not putting on a show, right? You can be yourself. You can confide in someone else. You can share your stressors. You can share all of the emotional turmoil that you're going through, those things, and you can look for support that's coming back from them. That's a quality relationship, and you'll find that those factors are very important for you to being resilient, strong, for you to have in being in a good mentally, a good emotional state, right? If I, for example, have a circumstance where I'm in a large amount of stress, I know straight away the people I would go to first of all, and it's a way, it helps me cope with that, helps me
so
not
offload,
deteriorate.
get it off your chest, like they say.
Going back to the Joker, right? He had no one at any stage.
That's true.
Did you think
he had? Yeah, even that lady.
girl,
There.
no, but that lady,
the mental health lady, innit? Who are you talking about?
No, the one that. Did you think it was in his head or not? Because some people debated that against him. The next door lady that he went out with into the carnival had.
Well, I thought in the beginning, I thought it was real.
It wasn't real. That was it all in his head, right? But it shows that he wanted that relationship where he was smiling, he was happy.
He wanted that normal.
But he didn't have that. He was actually alone. In fact, with you, when I saw that scene, I thought, "What? How is this happening?" And only later when I clocked, this is all in his head. This is all in his head.
I thought it happened. I was like, wow, like someone gets him, someone understands him. And
you felt happy for him.
Yeah, I felt happy for him. The one thing I would say, the Joker was an emotional roller coaster of a film. And I was saying they created a whole new genre. Because it wasn't thriller, it wasn't really action-packed. It was this whole new genre of awareness, and they've done it in a very smart way, which is why I rate them. Because I went in thinking one thing and anticipating one thing, and I left in a whole different way. But I agree with the relationship thing, and I think it's important for us, especially as medics and doctors, and kind of like, you know, us kind of going through it together, even from like the first time med school, like the depth of relationships should be good. You should have people that you can offload to, and there are people that, you know, I've been on the phone to who've been kind of crying, or, you know, you get them calls early in the morning, or you just need the people that you can offload to be true, and if you're having any concerns, you can basically talk it out with them, essentially. Exactly.
Interestingly, in the Joker, right, I think we need to mention this important point is, so maybe this is something that the Joker completely got wrong, and people shouldn't interpret it in this way, and that's if someone's got a mental health, that they're a sort of murderer, they're a serial killer, they're very dangerous individuals. What you'll find is that research has shown, and you'll find lots of case studies and all of that which has shown that they're actually more likely to be harmed and injured as a result of someone else around them. So they're at risk from someone else. They aren't. They're less of a risk to someone else, and they're risk to themselves.
Yeah, they're probably more vulnerable.
Exactly. So we can't take the Joker's depiction of
because I think people assume like mental health. So obviously mental health, people think like schizophrenic, psychopath, someone that talks to themselves, someone that goes out on a rampage, and a lot of time people are like, oh, he's just making it up, or like, just get over it, whatever. So I think there's that depiction in society as mental health is just this thing in our head, and it's just, you know, people moaning. Essentially, that's what it is, if we're being crude and straightforward. And like, I feel that like in the Joker, the bit that got me, and I'm someone that like, I feel everyone should have support, it's that he was kind of outcast from every tier of society. Like the people from his own community shunned him out. When he went and met his so-called father, shunned him out. You know, I think there was a bit, even the street beggars, like even if someone was begging for a thing on the street, you'd give a pound or two, but if someone's crying in mental health, no one would care for them. So this concept of every part of society outcast him, and he was there by himself, and that bit got me, I'm not gonna lie.
And he was abused by like you said, every single person of almost every single level. So children, they rushed him. They rushed him. And then the people he worked with, ridiculed him. One of them gave him a gun.
Yeah.
They did all sorts of things to him. His employer,
Even at one point, his mum said
Fired.
it. You're not even funny. Why do you want to be a comedian? Do you
his
remember?
mum, he was on TV mocked by Wayne,
What? Yeah.
Bruce Wayne, the
Yeah.
comedian,
And the guy that did the show.
and then the guys on the tube, Wall Street bankers,
Yeah.
they abused him. Look at that. He was a man that was abused at every single level. He had no belonging, and that had me heartbroken, man,
Yeah.
to watch that, man, like him being abused like that. And one thing that we should take a lesson from watching that is how many of us are doing that, albeit maybe not in a physical way.
Yeah.
How many of us are actually
We're just
doing
subconsciously
that?
doing it. I
Right.
think to a certain degree.
There
man.
was a bit where he was playing with a child,
Yeah, I remember.
and remember he was mocked, and then that mum told him to shut up. But that wasn't the only bit. If you looked on the bus, everyone looked at him with a face like
What
why?
you doing?
What's he
Yeah.
doing? What's he doing? How many of us do that and are actually abusing someone? And it brings me to the point, right, that something we need to do is we all need to look after each other. How many times are you ever asked, how's your day? Are you okay? And you just walk by saying okay. Right? We should be asking, how is it? No, is it really okay?
Yeah.
How have you been?
Yeah, I remember like you were saying it. I remember like someone put a post up on Instagram. It wasn't a post. I think it was the stories. I can't remember. I think I know the brother well, and he must have been going through something now at the time, and he must have been putting these things on Instagram or like having a rant, and I just like messaged him and like, yo, you're right, bro, and he was like, yeah, I'm cool, bro, whatever. But then I think looking back, maybe I should have called him. Do you know what I mean? Like there are always these little telltale signs of
someone going through
someone
hardship.
going through something. It might be an like a Instagram post. It might be this. There's like telltale signs, but it's very difficult to tell. I remember like I'm just gonna go diverge. Krebs and Conan's new track, "Revenge is Sweet." Right? There's a little track about Nash, who committed suicide, who was the partner and a big person in making the Krebs and Conan's restaurant successful. And in the track, he goes, "You waited till the restaurant was fully open, and then you killed yourself." And he said, why didn't you give us a sign? You could even tell us. Like, we had no idea. So I think this concept of mental health is an illness or a disease that can be hidden so well that no one will even know about it. And if you check WHO, so WHO stands for the World Health Organization, and they say the most debilitating illness is depression and OCD together. So in terms of the one that debilitates you, your well-being, your mental health, everything, the worst disease to have essentially is depression and OCD. The condition is depression and OCD. And I think it's important, and like I urge people, if you're going through a rough time, there are people you can talk to, there are helplines, and I urge you like desperately to go and seek help. And I think we should make an effort as well, just to
reach out. And we and everyone else, look out for everyone. Like you said, for that post where you actually did step one though, which was to message and say, are you okay? Sometimes that is enough. But how many people liked and scrolled?
Yeah, I think you just stop there. Like,
right,
we're human, innit? We're guilty, so we say out a bit, like, you're right, bro. Cool. He's like, yeah, man, cool.
Exactly, yeah.
And that's it. You've done your bit.
Yeah.
Fine. And I feel if I press and I push, like, nah, tell me. Remember that time one of our friends, like, you know, he was upset about something, but then he brushed it aside.
Exactly.
But because we know him and he's a good friend of us, we pushed him, and then he told us, and then we're like, bro, you should have told us, easy fix.
And he got it off his chest.
Do you know what I mean? He got
happy.
off his chest. And that goes to show how important these relationships are, how important it is to have a very deep and valued relationship. And I've seen people that have no one. Like, I know people personally that, imagine this, waking up and not having a single WhatsApp message, not being a part of a single group. Can you imagine? Like, you can't even fathom. Like, us wake up, there's thousands or hundreds of messages, and you're like, oh, allow it. There are people that literally wake up every day and they have no one to message them. You go in the WhatsApp chat and it's empty, literally empty. No group chat, no fun, no memes, and that breaks my heart. Like, you know, we act all of this and stuff, but imagine that.
Exactly.
And it's people that are immediately in my family, I know personally.
So, yeah, man, inclusion. We need to look out for each other, man. It's really important that people look out for each other and make active effort, make and build quality relationships. That's important. It's important, and we have to remember, for some of these things that we're saying, you don't have to be You don't have to have a condition to do. You don't have to have the challenge to then go for the solution. For example, you wouldn't necessarily have to have all fractured bones and everything to go to the gym to get your physique back and get your strength back. You don't need to have the challenge set. So we should all be doing it. We should all be actively doing it, building good relationships and so forth. So I think that's a very, 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 very important.
And saying that reminded me about go to the gym and fractured bones. The importance, so like we said, we'll talk about different ways you can look after your mental health and well-being. Like, just as an individual with a busy job, you should always look after yourself. And the exercise, the gymming bit, like I'm not too sure about the studies, or you might know more than me, but in terms of exercise, I think it's a very good thing to do to look after yourself, your mental well-being and your mental state. And I remember, like, when we were working out, I'm looking whatever now, but the best way to get the highest relief of endorphins, do you know which exercise does that? So when you go gym, you release endorphins, and that's what makes you feel light.
Which exercise?
You
told me this. It's the treadmill.
No. It's skipping. Jump rope. Yeah, skipping. So stuff like running is good. Yeah. But skipping is the best exercise to release the highest level of endorphins, to make you feel good, to get that hit, to get that buzz, to feel like a weight has been lifted off your chest. Is skipping. And I learned that from Freshly Grounded. So from Faisal, I'm going to at you. I learned that from you. But exercise in general, and it reminds me of, because I love to read, so I read this book. I'm going to definitely recommend Shoe Dog by Phil Knight, the founder of Nike. And he said every time he was stressed, he was really anxious, when he was making a big decision, he used to run 6 miles. Because Phil Knight was an athlete who kind of went on to develop the Nike shoes. And for him, exercise was important in him kind of like clearing his head, mental well-being. Every time he had a big decision, he used to run 6 miles and sweat, and that endorphin release is good. So I encourage a lot of people, start with gym. Like, it's a very good way to look after yourself, man. So
gym plus loads of with studies that I've looked into this, right? Some of them have suggested that just 1 hour of exercise is associated with lower rates of depression, anxiety, and all of those things. So it does support everything you've just said. But it isn't actually just exclusively gym. It can be hiking. It can be going for a walk, going for a brisk walk, going through the park. All of those things that actually get you
exercise,
to
essentially.
Exercise. Any form is actually associated with that. There's evidence out there to suggest that. So, and you know what? I personally do that as my time off. It's like I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about research, auditing. I'm not thinking about this podcast and editing. It's just you, yourself, in the gym, in that piece of action. Right? And that's all that matters in that. And I think that focus, that determination, that commitment to that sort of activity, it definitely helps. I get really itchy and really stubborn and angry and snappy when I find that I'm not going to the gym regularly.
And to be fair, even when we were living together, like, gym was an important part for you. Because I was never that keen. I kind of only joined gym because you were going, and then I kind of enjoyed it and I liked it. And more probably for aesthetic reasons, and then you feel like, because I remember we used to work out in this open outdoor parks, and I used to run, and it was the running to the park, which was like a good 10-15 minute run, that cleared my mind, not the workout itself. The workout does help, but the running kind of released the endorphins. But it goes to show what you said is quite important, and I read this, I remember in an article about focusing on one task, and medics will suffer a lot from this, is when you, so it's this whole concept of multitasking. I remember I used to tell everyone, you're not doing multitasking is a myth. Like, people used to cuss me for it. I think they'll still cuss me, but I read an article where it basically said one of the reasons as to why you feel really anxious, really worked up, is when you're juggling lots of different things. And I think it's common news anyway. A lot of these big CEOs, billionaires, millionaires, they will say, if you're doing a task, do it well, and focus on that one thing, because really, truly, you can't really multitask, because you can't do two things at the same time, because it means 50. I know we don't use 100% of our brain power, but it means 50% of each task. So for me, what I've found helped is basically focusing on one set of tasks at a time, and then moving on rather than doing 10, 15 things. However, in medicine, you feel that you have to do it. So, for me, if I have to do a blood test, I'll do all the blood tests in one go. If I have to book scans, I'll book all the scans in one go. And so it means when I'm taking bloods of someone, I'm not thinking, I have to book this scan for that person. I've booked one. Do you know what I mean? If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So multitasking, so the number is only 2% of people
use the brain power.
Officially
2% of the population
can officially multitask.
Yeah.
So and everyone will say, no, I can multitask.
It's females in general. Women love to say, yeah, we multitask. I don't think it's multitasking. You do multiple things.
For that.
I know. I think females perhaps maybe better than men. I don't know. They need to do a proper research because we're evidence based.
Yeah.
But I think the concept. I think it's very easy to think doing multiple things at the same time doesn't necessarily mean you're multitasking, and at the same time, multitasking doesn't mean you're doing the thing efficiently. I want to do a study. Maybe I'll do it one day where we can 9 to 5 do things in a multitasking fashion, or do one where we do one task at a time. And naturally makes sense, man. If you're thinking about lots of different things and you're focusing on one, you're going to get worked up and anxious. And this is more for the medtech startup people. They always say, when you have a business or any sort of society organization, do the most hardest and most complicated task in the beginning of the morning and then work your way up, or flip it, do the most quickest and easiest ones first and then do it. So, and they never recommend writing an email and making a phone call. They don't say writing an email and listening to XYZ, focus on one task at a time.
So for this particular point, right, in how it ties to mental health, right, there's I've read as well about this, about single tasking, right, and you also touched on it, how when you do just one thing, right, you're in the zone of doing one thing, you'll find that you complete it at better efficiency, better rates, and you actually, all of the anxiety and everything around that is reduced. I think the statement goes as when what you say, what you do, and what you're thinking is all in the same sphere, right, then you're most at peace, right? For example, this is what is probably negative and bad for your mental health. You're sitting there eating dinner, right? And instead of just really enjoying, just taking in your food, enjoying your food, enjoying, maybe you're in an environment where you're with family or with friends. Instead of just taking all of that in, you're thinking about tomorrow's work placement.
Yeah.
That is negative. What you should do for good mental health is really and truly just take that in. When you're eating with friends, family, taking the environment, taking the food, think about it. When you everything you're doing should be in that sphere alone. Don't let your mind and everything else track away to, you've got a deadline, you've got this, you've got that. I used to do that. So in med school, when I had my time away, when I went to the gym, for example, that's something I do again. I think mental health, in terms of my mental health, the gym is very important. So when I went to the gym, I used to go during exam time. But even when I was at the gym, didn't think about the exam. I was just there for my purpose that I was there for. So that's a very
I think that's quite
thing.
a good point though. Like even the food thing, I know it's always very easy, especially as a medic or a lawyer or a banker or even general work in retail, wherever. You get this lunch break and you're rushing and you're on your phone and whatever. So I think moving forward myself, I'm going to try consciously enjoy food. So like don't rush to eat essentially, so embrace it and it will make a big difference. It's basically, I think it's part of this mindfulness, just taking a step back and enjoying the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
I think when you're so preoccupied with lots of things and tasks and whatever, it worries you and it gives you undue stress and anxiety. Like I'm in Amz and Gynae right now, and one of the biggest things as to why we have lots of females attend because they have irregular periods, right? And you may remember from med school, one of the biggest reasons as to why they get irregular periods is stress
levels.
Stress life, and the first thing is like, do you have any undue stress? Are you stressed at work? Are you stressed at home? What's happening? And a lot of them will say, I'm going through, it might be domestic violence, I'm going through a rough patch with my husband, I'm going through difficulty at work, and I've noticed all of a sudden my menstrual cycle is regular, and now all of a sudden it's irregular. And I say, listen, you're fine. Stress itself, it has the ability to kind of interfere with your hormones and kind of mess up the cycles. So that is important, kind of well-being, mindfulness, and taking a step back and enjoying what you're doing. But then it goes to show about life and contentment and what we're doing and is it all about money? Like the previous, is it all about money, power, respect? Is it all about them finance? Is it all about having the best car, the best this and that way? So when you're so preoccupied with it, you can't really enjoy it in that moment in time.
So true. So for you, right? So this comes onto a separate point now. What do you do, right? That is your way of. So one thing for good mental health, one thing that's suggested is just escaping everything. What's the one thing you do where everything else is just out of your mind and it's just you escaping into your zone and it's just you're happy there in your zone? What do you do?
For me, there's one thing and two things. So the people that know me well will know it. So the first thing I do when I'm not stressed or like I need a mind block like to think is I draw, I doodle. So I draw like these weird designs, abstract things. So I just draw and it'll be on all my revision notes, it'll be all over my desk, even at work, it's there, like across my wall is just this drawing. So that's the first thing.
Across
I draw.
your wall?
Yeah, there's a wall I just draw on the wall.
Respect that.
Yeah. So I draw. For me, it's drawing. Like I doodle. I doodle, I scoodle.
But very artistic.
In an artistic way. Do you know what I mean?
Very artistic and
in a weird way, it's the same pattern over and over again, but it's a small pattern that grows into something like that. And that, for me, personally, that clears my head.
And that's your escape.
That's my escape. And secondly, it's reading.
I knew you were going to say reading.
I
was waiting for that,
Yeah.
but then you came up with number one. I was a bit
No. So those are the two things. So that's that. But my reading is like my vice. I enjoy reading a lot. Even from a young age, man, reading allows me to I don't know what you want to call it, but it lets me escape. So yeah, the question was escape.
Escape. So reading for you.
Yeah. What about you? Yeah.
And that's important, right? So another tip that we're passing on about how to boost your mental health and keep it in a good, healthy state is escape is good. Escape is important. And for escape, crucially, right, it can be anything. It can be doodling, as you said. It's a complete mind block. Similarly, it can be watching TV, it can be Netflix, binge watching shows, things like that. It's all an escape for you. But you actually also hit on another very important point for mental health in general as well, which is that reading is actually a form of escape, a form of entertainment, but it's a form of education.
Yeah, that's
right. You read a lot of self-help books. Right, for example, you just departed some knowledge on Nike. What's his name?
Shoe Dog. So it's Shoe Dog, Phil Knight, the founder of Nike.
Yeah, exactly, about how exercise relates to that. And then you can practice that. You equip yourselves with these tools, right? So when you're stressed out, maybe you go to yourself, you know what? The CEO of Nike did it, so I'm going to go for a run to see if it helps me. See, what you do is, so you can escape. But your escape, you've got two things. So one is just a mind block escape. You don't really equip yourself with anything, but you've got a second escape, and that is an educational form of escape where you're escaping into your own land. But what you find is that you're picking up lots of resources and tools. I guarantee you, and I've seen you do it as well. I've seen you do everything like that. So what you read, you actually use when it's relevant in the environment and in the circumstances you're in. So for example, for your startup businesses, whenever, for example, in the startups that we're working on and working with, when we're under certain stressors, I've seen you do this. I read in this book that he did it like this. Maybe we should try it. And you practice what you're learning. So that's tools that you're picking up that help your mental health in the sense of managing stressors, activity.
So I agree. I think that's a good one. I didn't think of it like that. Because there's a lot of things we can do consciously, but for me it just helps. But I guess you're right. Like I feel that there have been moments where like something will happen, I'm like, oh guys, I read this in a book, or he did this, or I read this, I read this. So yeah, I guess you're right. So yeah, and there's loads of books out there, and if you want, we can give a list of recommendations, or we can just do a review of all the different books that I've read and I've personally benefited from. So that's me. What about you? So I know you've mentioned going to the gym and exercise, and we've shown the evidence does show it reduces.
So of my escape in the sense of your drawing, that's a complete mind block, is I do watch shows, sometimes I watch TV, and then the gym. There are areas where it's just mind blocking yourself. It's an escape, right? But I also have now started to pick up sort of an educational escape, and that's podcasts and audio books, right? It's my way of equipping myself and learning about different things. I find that there's so much knowledge out there. I prefer to listen and watch someone speak, or I'll watch someone give a talk about a particular topic, and I find that what I take in it's applicable to me. So for example, mindfulness about what I'm doing. I find that in my practice of whatever I'm doing, I'm in the zone, and what I'm saying, what I'm doing, what I'm thinking is all in a single line.
I was gonna, you just reminded me, like, so one of the reasons as to why this podcast and everything happened is because you were interested in videography, which you didn't mention. So you mentioned about the audio and podcasting, and you do your talks, but you didn't mention the videography, which I thought you'd mention, because you like videography, you like editing, even the trailer. So the trailer was made by Amz, to be fair, not me. All his edits, he does the editing, to be fair, and it just brings on to that point of, and I don't think it is to do with the videography, but it kind of may resonate. Like, I remember in the beginning, one of the reasons which like annoys me a lot is this concept of perfectionism. And that is the biggest thing that makes people worry. It's the biggest reason as to why a lot of people fail to do their project, or they fail to do their startup or medtech. And we had it personally as well with our own ventures, is this concept of perfectionism. And medics have it the worst. And medical students and doctors, because they're so used to performing really well, so used to getting top of the class, and they're so perfectionist in their revision, that when it comes to releasing a project or an idea or starting a business, because they wait for so long for the product to be perfect, for the video to be perfect, for the trailer to be perfect, it holds them back and it causes undue stress. So that's the reason as to why, although the trend is changing, a lot of medics don't do that great in terms of their startups, because they have this innate perfectionism, and it means you wait for the perfect thing. So I know I used you to kind of like explain something.
Perfectionism.
And like, it happened with the trailer, and it was annoying me. It was like, bro, let's just get it out there. And you know, obviously.
No, you're right. I think, and that's something that I've gradually learned and developed. And in fact, perfectionism has held back a lot of projects that I've wanted to do that I'm finally doing now. So I agree with you completely. And in fact, again, going back to studies and research, right? You can't debate research, or you can debate it, but research is research, and the evidence is there. And the evidence suggests that perfectionism, the traits of perfectionism, is associated with higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts.
Okay.
So
I don't know that about
it supports your argument of when you're at a level of something, you don't need to wait for something to be perfect to do it. This goes back to the concept of even finding your escape, going to the gym and things like that. You don't need to be this strong athlete to go to the gym. You don't need to wait for that perfection. Or some people think that if you go to the gym, you should be able to lift an X amount. No, you can go to the gym for exercising, for improving and supporting your mental health. You see, so perfectionism is not just applicable to studies, to projects, but even things like finding your escape. Being a perfectionism in completing all tasks and then making sure your escape is right at the end of the day when you should be sleeping. Right? You're trying to be a perfectionist in your schedule. No, sometimes you can't be perfect.
It makes sense though. If you're forever chasing this 100% perfect, would you ever be happy? Would you truly be content if you're just like, let me wait, it delays things, you never get really started? So that in itself, think about it, is worse than doing 10 different things at the same time. It's like the quest for, it's not saying like, you produce bad pieces of work, or the trailer you made, you do a bog standard or half standard, but if you are waiting for the perfect trailer, I don't think you can ever get the perfect trailer. There will always be improvements and it would just stun your head in again and again, and made you worked up, and anxiety, and you'd have been at work stressing. So this perfectionism thing, I think, is good. We
exactly. And going back to all the talks that I've heard from all the different entrepreneurs and speakers and self-help books and audiobooks, right? A lot of them actually say sometimes just do it.
Yeah, just start. That's my ethos in life. Like,
just do it.
I'm sure the people that have been following me have seen the lots. Like, I remember one guy said, every single day you're doing a new venture, every single day you're coming up with something new. Like, and I'm someone that if I have an idea, I can't sit on it, and I need to start straight away. Luckily, I have people around me that kind of hold me back and like, let's do this properly, let's do it sensibly. But I think it's about relationships, having a good surrounding, a good team of people around you. That's like, for me, I don't care about perfectionism. Like, I want to just do it. Do you know what I mean? So yeah. Yeah.
So I think let's recap over the things that we're saying that can help everyone. You don't have to have the condition to help everyone sort of look after their mental health. The saying that I saw on the internet recently, right? Just as your body needs the gym for physical health, your mind needs his mind gym to look after itself. Right, so I think number one was make sure you have good quality relationships. Build them with your mum, with your brother, your sister, your partner, your spouse, your friends, your boys, everyone.
Mm.
Build deep, meaningful relationships.
Mm.
Number 2, we said that we needed an escape. Make sure you have an escape, your form of drawing, going to the gym maybe even. Make sure you have an escape. Sometimes also make sure your escape is an educational form of an escape, whereby it equips you with the tools that help you in life when you're put in that environment. Number 4, exercise. You've said all about the CEO and the founder of Nike, about what he did, and there's countless of examples out there, but exercise is associated, it's almost a fact out there, so try and get some exercise in. Number 5, we talked about perfectionism. So sometimes just do it, right? It's good enough. And number 6, do we have number 6?
So
getting involved in volunteering projects. That was the last one.
Okay.
So to go over that topic, me and you did it ourselves. We've been volunteering in many different places, in the educational sphere, in the charitable, humanitarian sphere, in all different spheres. And the point for that is volunteering, right, gives you a purpose where you just meet other people. It brings you out of isolation, puts you into a group where you can build relationships where no one has an agenda for themselves. Well, sometimes they do, but there's a greater agenda that covers it all, right? The purpose of whatever you're volunteering for.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And I think the important thing is you mentioned volunteering rather than do a project, do a work. With volunteering is something that's not attached to any sort of financial reward or financial gain. Most often is to do with charity. Most often to do with the betterment of society, or most often to help communities. But I remember I read something as well, or I saw it. It's like some people they're suffering from like mental health. Like I think the thing was, even in a crowd you feel lonely or something like that.
So that's what it is. So so you can feel lonely when you're in a crowd of your own friends. You can be in a room full of people. Yeah, you can be in a room full of your own people. And still be lonely, and that got me. I think mental health isn't something that we talk about on a regular basis. But that thing got me. But then it reminds me, what would you say was your best thing, the best bit in the Joker scene, or like the film? The best bit.
What was your most favorite part? What was the most poignant bit? You thought, do you know what? This is it. This is the bit that.
You go first. I need time. And the podcast viewers ain't got that much time.
It's that quote. You know the quotes he said.
That quote. Yes, you just reminded me. So the quote goes, "The worst bit about having a mental illness is that people expect you to behave as if you don't."
Yeah,
it was in his notebook.
Yeah.
And he wrote it down, and it's just so true, man. It's like, for example, if you saw people with COPD, heart failure, things like that, you don't expect them to be able to. If they're on an escalator and you're going up the tube, you're not going to expect them to run up those stairs if they've got that condition. Or if someone has got one limb, you're not going to expect them to. You're not going to say, "Oh, just get over it. You got one leg now. The other leg had to be amputated." But we expect people with depression, anxiety, OCD, they have to behave as they don't. That completely
I think that was the sin that knocked me off my feet, man. It was very poignant. Bear in mind, I went to see violence. I literally went to see.
You went to see violence.
That's how bad it was, and that knocked me, man. And I remember, like, even in my house, like in my flat in Coventry, like, me and my flatmates were talking about this immensely. Like, you know what it did? The film, the Joker film, it sparked debate. It's not like a film. This is a sick film. It sparked debate. It made people think. People start giving more awareness to mental health. Yeah, even if what they did with that film was amazing. Do you know what I mean? What they kind of brought this topic of mental health in a very different way, which was good. And I know we're very sensitized to like campaigns, awareness, but the way the Joker was done, it reintroduced the idea of mental health and awareness in a very different way, and it kind of knocks you off your feet in a very way which I kind of liked. But I would say that was probably my favourite scene. The second favourite scene was the bit where he killed that man in the flat. You know the bit where he killed him, and then he had to open the guy. the door for the little one.
Why is that your favorite scene, man?
Because I wanted
He
to
came
watch
for
it.
that.
Yeah, I went to see a film. So
that bit
scene.
was crazy.
It was crazy,
Um,
and then he kissed the little guy on the head. But,
So we digress from the main point that we were on. So volunteering takes you away from isolation, brings you in for a single agenda. You're goal orientated with people with the same goal, opinion, and you're working for the better good often. And if we go back to studies again, you'll find that, as you suggested with exercise, you actually get endorphin release from when you do something that benefits someone else.
Okay,
You get endorphin release, makes you feel good about yourself. And that's why some people actually also do it. And that's about it. I guess we've given about 6 reasons, I think.
So what we'll do
is to look after your mental health.
We'll wrap it up. I'll leave like when you release timestamps on the bottom. You can click on a certain part, go straight to it, so you don't really need to watch the whole podcast if you're interested in a particular moment. I'll leave a list of the 6 steps or the 6 things that we've kind of, from our research, from listening to other podcasts, and your job in mental health has kind of found that is the most effective ways. So 6 most effective ways on how to improve your mental well-being and health.
Disclaimer: there could be more.
There's more.
Loads,
and
but
there's
6 things that we've come across.
And these are the 6 things that we've personally found to work for us as well. And at the end of the day, different things work for different people. So go out and see what works for you. But as always, it's important, and we urge you, especially doctors, people in intense careers, look after yourself. Mental well-being is important, and it's just not for doctors; it's for every person in society. So on that note, I think it's a good time to end the episode. We want to thank you once again immensely, even more so, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to listen to the podcast. And we hope you got some benefit from it. And we hope to see you next week.
See you then, otherwise.